Yo, what is going on, people? Welcome to Throwdown Your Questions, episode 432. I'm your host, Tony Polanco, and tonight I'm joined by Emilio Lopez. Unmute yourself, sir.
Sup, people? How's it going?
Carlos Romero.
Yo, yo, yo.
Adam Vale.
How you doing? How you doing?
Brett Murdoch.
What up, people?
And Brian Manjoma.
What up, what up?
All right, we are back with another one. We don't know what's going on with Chris. Maybe he'll join us. Maybe he won't. We shall see about Sealy.
He may be in the realm of Resident Evil.
Yes. All right, as we talked about on the Thursday show, because obviously the big deal of that show was the latest with the whole Activision Blizzard drama, and we were like, oh man, like, you know, the only guys that were on the show didn't care about it. Thankfully, we got the two guys who are excited about this and have spicy takes, and you guys asked us a lot of questions, so tonight might get racy, so get ready for this, you know?
Very controversial.
We will be officially transferring the show into the Brett and Adam show.
Yes. Yeah. No, like I said, like even though we most of us here don't care about the story, this show is your show. So you got questions about it, we will answer them. So that's how it is, man. Let's get into it, man. Kishak starts us off here. All right. This one's a little bit of a long one, so just bear with me here. There are quite. Hold on, who gave us some bits? Hold on, before we even start.
Dirty
Mango, let's go. Just subscribe,
yo.
man. Oh, hold on, somebody. Well, who's making it rain? Who's making it rain? Dirty Death Dealer. Dirty Death Dealer. He's making it rain right now, man. Everybody subscriing. Good stuff, man. The Dirty Death Dealer, man. He's one of the OGs. He's been with Throwdown since day one, man. Back on the STFU and Play Days. So shout out to him, man. Good stuff. Thank you for that. All right, let's get into it. Kishak. All right. There are quite a few vocal Xbox fans that are suggesting Microsoft go ahead with the merger and ignore the CMA's decision and thereby skip the UK entirely. However, that would mean Microsoft and Activision Blizzard would have to pull out entirely out of the UK and therefore forfeit everything they have achieved in the UK. I imagine it would screw Microsoft over for all future acquisitions and likely cause other governing bodies to be far more harsh on them, and everyone in the UK would likely never trust Microsoft again. Some people
That's not what it means.
Yeah, no, let me finish the question. Some people seem to be fine with that solution until you realize they would be fucking over their UK developers like Playground, Ninja Theory, and Rare, which are some of their better performing studios so far. What do you guys think of this dumb nuclear option? It's stupid. That's what it is.
That's not what it means. That's not what would happen.
Yeah.
So the whole point of it is that we've seen this with the example with FIFA, for example. I think it was was it Brussels or it was Belgium. I think it was in Belgium. One of those areas over there blocked Foot Ultimate Team. They saw it as gambling. So they said, that's it. You can't have this in your games over here. We're not going to support it, and we're not going to carry it, and that whole thing. It's like, all right, no problem. So EA just took that part out and still released FIFA. So FIFA's over there. Just before it changed the name, but yeah, you can still get it. You just don't have access to Ultimate Team. So the same thing would happen here if it went down that road. Now, this was not just fans talking about it. This was actually legal speak. This is a lot of the lawyers talking about other alternatives and options that they could go down. So let's say the CMA right now, their issue is this cloud gaming. Oh, Microsoft's going to dominate cloud gaming if they do this, and we're going to block it for that. Remember, they said they had no issues with the games itself. They passed that. All right. If that's the case, then they could just say, you know what? For your area, that cloud gaming service that we offer is just disabled. We'll still release the games. We'll do all the stuff like usual, but the cloud gaming won't work. And what happens? It puts pressure on the CMA from the community, because the community are going to look at it and be like, wait, why are they doing this to us? Well, the publisher's not doing it to you. It's your Consumer Electronics Union that's doing it to you. They're blocking it. They see something wrong. And the other flip on it is because think of the areas that did approve it. You got France and you got a few other regions that already said they're cool with this. So that they're going to have it. Brazil is going to have it. Well, these other areas. So that is one alternative. Then they don't want to go down that road because that's just a hassle. But that is one alternative just to address this part, his question. That's what if they wanted to do, they could do that.
Two clarifications real quick. It was indeed Belgium. And the second clarification, Brussels is the capital of Belgium.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I knew it was something over there. It wasn't too sure.
And the third clarification, Chris Seeley's in the house. You know, what's going on, man? All right, you're good.
I want to piggyback on what Adam said. When they talk about they should just go ahead and push ahead with the merger, technically what that means is they can actually acquire them, but they can't consolidate them. So they have to Microsoft would have to run them as two separate companies until they got clearance from the CMA. But the reason a lot of people are telling them to do this is there are stipulations written into the contract where Microsoft owes more money the further back this deadline gets pushed. And I think I think I'm not the only one that thinks, when they read this, they're like, oh, well, clearly some people are, I think they're just trying to push it back and kick the can down the road until Microsoft doesn't view it's worth it or has to pay a shitload of penalties. So when they're saying that they should just go ahead and do it, they mean that they should just go ahead and acquire them to avoid those penalties and taxes and keep them as separate entities until they can basically win the court hearings that they need to.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I brought up before we went live is that the only thing that's really proved this whole thing with the CMA is that it called Microsoft's bluff, because Microsoft had said that if something happens and it gets blocked on this end, that they'll just back out of the deal if it's going to go too long. And clearly that's not the case, because Microsoft said, nope, we're going to appeal, we're going to fight this is happening, this is it. And we knew that was going to happen. They don't invest and sit down in the boardroom and say, hey, we're going to invest and spend $60 billion on something and then just back out because this one commission says no. That's not how this is going to work. They are going to keep going with this because there's money to be made. When both parties want to be involved, they will find a way, whether it's this method or if it comes down to the more backdoor way, which is if these shareholders, these stockholders of Activision just sell their stock to Microsoft. It's like, hey, here, we're selling it. Here, now you'll own the majority. Then what? Then what do you do? That's the hostile takeover. That's it. But they all sold. That was the same issue that we saw with, what was it, Invendi? Was that with Ubisoft? When they were going around asking all the investors to sell their stock and they were trying to get majority share for Ubisoft. That was that's a hostile takeover. That was one method. And that is an option if Microsoft wants to go down that road. And it won't even be that hard because these shareholders want this money. They want this deal to go through. Whether it's just to walk away with a big sum and then back out, it doesn't matter. They just want the deal to happen. So they're going to find a way. On both ends, they're going to find a way.
Yeah. All right. Next question here, also from Kishak. Is Microsoft chasing after the golden goose Activision Blizzard, distracting them from their console business and causing them to lose focus of their core fans? I honestly think Microsoft is pulling another Kinect, but this time it'll be even worse.
No, that's not, but they're slacking. That's the one thing, and I think that's being too lenient. And this is something that I brought up. Remember, Carlos, and I was telling you about this. It's like, here it is. It's like a catch-22, and this is for Uncle Phil with how he's doing this. On one hand, he's like giving all these developing groups, hey, just work on it, whatever time you need, just get it done, right? And that way we don't have issues where it crashes, it fails, whatever, problems. And that's great until it gets long in the tooth. And next you know, that delay from a few months turns into another few months to a year. Then what? Then now you look like you can't manage anything. But then on the flip side, if he was to say, hey, all right, you need an extension of 3 months? All right, that's it. 3 months and tops. And then what happens? Let's say some guy goes on Reddit or on Twitter, oh, the crunch is real and I'm stuck here. And then they'll get harassed for that. Who said it? Well, Phil was like, we only have this amount of time. And it's like, so what do you do? So what do you do? Someone is dropping the ball definitely on telling these developers to get their balls and all in check for all of this shit, because there's too many games out there being juggled that we know about that have no release date, that are getting pushed down the road, that are coming out incomplete. Redfall, unacceptable, no 60 frames in this day and age. That makes no damn sense. Unless there's more to it, maybe it's something that they don't want to release, because it's that whole idea that it has to be compatible with the Series S, X, that whole thing. Maybe there's something there that's causing a problem that they can't do it, but it's just too much. It's just too much with that. So I don't think it has anything to do with them focusing on this. I think it's just giving too much leeway and leniency to these publishers. It's like, hey, just, whenever you're ready, you're ready. Because that's what it seems like right now. Because all we ever hear is like, oh, they're working on this. Oh, it's going to be delayed. Oh, it's going to be delayed. Then what? Oh, no date.
I don't think it's leniency. I think it's pure pants-shitting terror. I mean, we kind of seem to be hitting this weird spiral where games are bigger, they are criticized more for being late, or if they're delayed too much, people know that it's going to have problems, and that gets them to be pushed out early where they have problems. And like, I think we live in a post-cyberpunk world. I don't think Microsoft can stand the hit of, okay, Redfall is actually a great example. If you just kind of put your ear to the internet right now, you'll still hear people just bitching about Redfall. I'm not saying it's not founded. It should be coming out. It should have this.
Oh no, it's going to get bitched on. It's definitely going to be a bitched on.
I know it's going to get bitched on, but it's getting bitched on.
No, I'm not saying anything.
Right now, I hear just about as much, and maybe I'm just walking in the weird circles, but like I still hear people bitching about Redfall, where the new Star Wars game came out just literally unplayable.
That's not true.
That's
Adam
not
true.
I can attest to that. I beat the game. It's not perfect. It's not perfect. There are some issues, but it is not unplayable. Maybe on PC it is. Maybe on PC it is.
Yeah, PC's got a lot of problems with the console. You were playing on PlayStation. Yeah. I'm playing on the Series X. It's working. It's working.
Yeah, but PC's fucked though. I heard that. Anyway, go on. I had to make that clarification. Go on. Redfall.
Just saying that, like, again, Microsoft has not earned the benefit of the doubt. They don't have that shield in front of them, and I feel like that, just walking out into open criticism like that, like they got to have their shit together. I would kind of be the same thing if I were at Microsoft right now. I'd be like, do not release a broken game. Don't do it. I don't care if everybody's doing it. If all your friends jump off a bridge, you don't do it too, man. Do not release a broken game. You're going to make us look bad. And we already look bad. Like, we haven't earned back that good grace yet. And until they do, they kind of got to be real careful.
Mm-hmm. The downside of that is the amount of delays. But then you have to see it as like, well, these delays are needed because obviously they want to make the best possible product. So,
yeah. And I think delays are honestly, especially, delays without them just kind of, being real vague and kicking stuff down the road. Like, that's the path of least resistance, right? Because like, it doesn't matter. When you talk about No Man's Sky, which still rings more true in your mind? Like, it's massive failure or its awesome comeback? Like, it can be a great game. Like, Fallout 76 still has that stigma, and the game completely reinvented itself. If something can only pull a Final Fantasy 14 every once in a while. And even then, like, I think that game's audience could have still been bigger if it didn't flop its initial release. So I think upsetting people with vague delays is honestly better because you only get a release once, right? You only get to step in that spotlight one time, and you got to make it count.
And then you rely on word of mouth. That's it. Like Fallout 76, you rely on word of mouth. People like that are still playing it to tell their buddies, no, this is good. This is good. This is actually feels like a real Fallout game. There's a campaign now. There's a story. There's NPCs. There's a lot going on in that game now.
Yeah, but the weird thing is, even when you tell people that, like, I've told people that. I've been like, no, it's a Fallout game now. I'm always regarded with, like, intense skepticism. Like, I don't know. But, like, for, like,
really?
What do you mean it feels like a Fallout game? Like, it feels like fucking Fallout. Yeah. Like, I heard it was pretty bad. I was like,
that was over a year ago, 2 years ago now. You know what I mean? It's like they're still supporting it. It's one of those things you just have to jump in and play. And that's what happened with me. Buddy of mine was like, no, jump in. I was like, all right, fine. I jumped in. I'm like, oh shit, this is Fallout. This is it. We're going on missions now. We're doing stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's move on again. We got a lot of questions about this. Bob Hits. Actually, hold on. You know what? Before we move on, because the guys in the chat are saying, with regard to the last question, that they do feel that Xbox is losing their focus. And instead of focusing on first-party games, they're focusing on this stuff, What do you guys think about that?
Well, that's what we hear in the news. Because that's what they're talking about. What we need to know, and what we don't know, is who is managing all these studios. Who is going around double checking? I don't think Phil's doing that. That used to be his job, but he got promoted, so he's handling all the other stuff. He's not doing it. We need to know who's doing this, because that's the person who's dropping the ball, who's double checking, finding out release dates and see where progress is on certain IP, so that way they can just better inform the community, and that way we know what's happening. Because right now we don't. Right now it looks like all these games we hear about them, but we don't know anything.
Well, okay, but I'm playing devil's advocate here, not because I necessarily agree with it, but because I'm like, you're kind of damned if you do, you're kind of damned if you don't. How many people here were excited for the huge final release of Grounded? Nobody? I already know that answer. Nobody was. It didn't release to great fanfare because it was so open with its development. From the week it released to the week that from the week it wasn't released to the week that it did release, it was basically a patch, right? And so like it never got a lot of fanfare. So what is the best answer here? Do you be transparent and kill your own hype? Do you release broken shit and kill your own reputation? Or do you just seem like you got nothing in the pocket and hope for the best? Like, I'm not saying it's a great answer, but I don't know what the better answer is if I'm trying to come at it from that situation. Like, what is good? And also, I want to throw in there, the people working on this lawsuit are not the people developing games, right? It may look like their attention is split, but again, that's because the media's attention is split. The media is focusing all on this. I virtually guarantee you this has no bearing on game production speed whatsoever. It's just they're not saying shit because again, there's not a lot of winning. I'm not sure. I want to criticize them. I want to be like, they should do. They should. Fuck, I don't know what they should do, man. And until I feel like I'm one of those people, like, unless I can criticize and say I think you should be doing this, or I think that this should be happening, or I think it should go this direction. If I'm just like, you're dropping the ball, how? I'm not exactly sure. Well, how could it do better? I don't know. I can't criticize until I have a better opinion.
That's the easy way to, at least on my end, that I see to criticize them, is that here it is. What I forgot how many years ago it was now. Was it 2018 when Phil came out on stage and showed all these studios that they purchased and this whole thing? And I was like, okay, that's great. But we need someone like we used to have with Major Nelson, but he's doing his own thing now with Microsoft. But we need someone to come out every few months and say, hey, let me give you the rundown of all these studios and what they're working on. Because we all know they're working on something. That's the whole reason of purchasing them. We don't know. And that's the problem, because then it makes it look like they're doing absolutely nothing. Like they just got bought and now they're sitting around trying to come up with ideas for games. And maybe one or two are, but we know from hearing about developers or seeing job postings for some of these studios on LinkedIn, hiring for programmers and other graphic artists. They're doing stuff. They're working on it. So then just let us know, so then that way we can see where it's starting, where it's headed, and the finish line. And we don't.
I agree. I think they need a bit better PR. Here's my suggestion. Hire PlayStation's old CEO, Kevin Butler, was that his name?
No, Kevin Butler was fake.
No, that was fake from the commercials.
I know I'm thinking the wrong name.
You mean the dude who signed off? Yeah, the one that signed all the
fake CEO.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Kevin Butler, yeah. The fake guy.
Yeah, Microsoft needs to hire Kevin Butler as their fake PR person.
Make a spoof. Yeah, they need to do something because it's too much.
Do something.
Yeah, well, they gotta
reach out. Like, I don't disagree. Like, you should be reaching out and hyping these things. Like, I just saw that there had been like people sussed out that Fable's most likely looking for like a late 2024 release date. And I'm like, why are we having to dig this out through like job postings on fucking YouTube and shit? Like, why is this on here about theories? Like, why don't we know where Fable's at? And it just seems like they're scared to tell us. And again, like, yeah, gamers are notoriously grumpy, angry people. Nothing you tell them is going to win everybody over. But I'm not sure that this just being quiet shit.
Yeah, we like to see progress. We want to make sure there's progress. So then I was like, all right, well, they're doing something. Instead of just no showing and no talking, it's just like, oh, well, whatever. Don't worry. You'll know it eventually. And that's not a good look, especially when you're trying to get people to buy into a service. And it sounds great on paper still, the Game Pass and first-party games on it. But where are all these first-party games? When are they coming?
Yeah, I mean, and it's crazy because we've gotten, I think, 2 games in probably the first half of this year, and I think they're both like AA to kind of pseudo indie type titles.
So let me see. For this, wait, what's now or from what we already had? Like
from the beginning of the year to
to the end of the year. So what do we have? We got the Forza one. We got that's coming. We got Redfall.
That's the second half, isn't it? Or am I?
I thought that was before the holidays. I thought that was before holidays.
Yeah, that's usually already been released, don't you?
Like pretty much till the end of May, like before E3, the E3 timeframe. We've had Hi-Fi Rush. We'll have Redfall, which aren't even like big games.
And what's that other the one Minecraft one that dropped?
Oh, Minecraft, yeah, Minecraft Legends.
Minecraft Legends.
Yeah. So we'll have
no thrills there. No thrills there.
We'll have those, and going back to real quick to the grounded point, the whole grounded thing was interesting because it released as a beta or open alpha or early access. I don't know what.
Yeah, early access.
So it came out like that first, and I felt like all the hype that came out when it was first initially announced died down after that because it was kind of pseudo came out. I even tried the demo or the early access, and I wasn't a big fan, and that's what sort of killed my hype for it.
Yeah, like they released it, and then when it was like, here's some basic mechanics and a world that's not finished yet. Like they hadn't introduced all the creatures. Like they released real early access, like almost point of concept. So there was never a point for a ticker tape parade, man. Like there was never a finish line to cross. It was just a slow release.
Yeah. So when it was time for it to actually come out, people were like, "Wasn't this out a year ago?" And other people were like, "Already forgot about the game." So it's hard on that. And the Fable, yeah, that you break up a good point with Fable. Fable, I don't even know if we should even get updates on that game because it's giving me 8 Days vibes all the time when I see that shit, or Fable Legends for that matter, because it just it was announced like 3 years ago. We got a frog eating a Thumbelina, and then that's it.
I don't know why, but I have a feeling it's going to be like a Battletoad situation. Like when Phil was like, "Oh, we're going to work on a Battletoad," then we didn't hear anything, and all of a sudden, "Oh, it's out now." It's like, "Well, all right, whatever." And then I feel that's what's going to happen with Fable. It's like, "All right, you're going to talk about it? Yeah, it's ready next month. It's out."
Yeah, I think that's what Microsoft is trying to do. I think they're trying to like, it's like I'm going to go uber nerd reference here. It's like trying to play a game of Magic, right? And loading up your deck and waiting too fucking long. And by turn 20, you're like, I'll just put my plan into action now. Like, they want to be able to do a whole bunch of, this is coming in 3 months, this is coming in 6 months. They want to, in my opinion, like, be able to have the optics of, game coming at you, and you get a game, and you get a game, and you get... The problem with that is, no matter how, like, if you're going to stop announcing games so far ahead, then you're going to go through a point where you're just not saying anything. And that maybe that's what this is, and maybe, because people have short memories, I guess. Like, by the time you start going, and here's a game, and here's a game, and here's a game, people have forgotten there was ever a drought, because that's how people work. But it's not doing many favors right now.
No. And I guess on paper it was supposed to look that way because look at all the studios they have. So it's like, oh, well, if they could each come out with a game within 3 to 6 months of each other, then we should be good every year. Yeah, on paper, but when these games start hitting delays or scrapping altogether, because that was one of the other things, again, rumors that Fable has had like 2 or 3 rewrites of the whole project, then what? Then what do you do? Now you got big spaces that you're like, oh, this is where this game would be. Well, it's not there now. Then what? I don't know. Then I guess we wait. And that's where we are now.
Yep. All right, let's go to another question here. Mob Hits. All right. Do you think Microsoft is prioritizing PC over its console, with experiences like Redfall only being 30 frames per second, then coming out saying 60 FPS to be announced? Seems like a big slap in the face when the console is what put them where they are right now.
No, I think it's what I was bringing up before. It's got to be something with the compatibility. Either it's the S or I'm pretty sure Redfall only works on next gen stuff, right? It's not. Is that an Xbox One?
I don't know.
I don't think so. So I think it's just for Series X and S, and we've heard all the developers that are having issues with just getting good performance from the S. So I have a feeling it had something to do with that.
Kind of feel like the Series S was a mistake.
Yeah.
I've been saying that from the jump, man. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
By the way, it is only a X and S.
Right? So, X and S and I have a feeling that's what's causing it, because once they were like, oh, yeah, well, it's not, the PC is not going to have that type of issue. Like, well, there you go. And that's what it is. It's a performance. It's underperformed. It just doesn't have.
Fuck up.
It's holding it back. So the only thing that they can do to resolve this issue, whatever it is scrap whatever they're making for the S and just boost it. The next batch that start coming out, put more RAM, whatever it is that's causing the hiccup.
You need to offer some sort of trade-in policy.
Oh yeah.
Some external booster or something like that. Like, here's the thing.
S2, that's it. Call it the Series S2. Trade in the other one. Get this one. More memory. More.
Yeah, for like, $100, blah, blah. Like, but Sony kind of did it right in the sense, and I hate to say it because I don't agree with 80% of this statement. Sony did it right in the sense that they held on to the previous generation longer than they should have. By Microsoft putting both power slots in the same generation, they're making it incredibly hard for them to detach from the S. Meanwhile, Sony could just be like, it's a PS5 exclusive. And Microsoft is sitting there, well, both of these are technically current generation, so you can't just abandon one like a fucking baby in the woods. So they're going to have to figure out a way to sunset the Series S sometime during this generation's life cycle, in my opinion.
It needs a refresh, and it's a mid refresh, and call it something else, and just say, hey, it's not as strong as the Series X, but it definitely is better than the S that you currently have.
Yeah, I mean, it may come to the point where where they come out with a Series Q or whatever, an Xbox X Plus or whatever, and then they can start saying games are only for the X and the X Plus. And I imagine that's kind of how they'll sunset it, but they're going to catch kickback from that unless they offer some sort of trade-in or upgrade program.
Yeah, remember Nintendo did that with the XL when they came out with that, and then it was like, oh, this is the only one that can do the Super Nintendo. It's like, all the other ones can't do. Why? And said, well, because we said so. We did something to it, and this is the only one that can do Super Nintendo.
Like, because who cares to buy it?
Exactly.
Because Nintendo can get away with that shit.
Yeah.
All right, next up, another one from Mob Hits. All right. Is the CMA's concern about Xbox's dominance in cloud gaming misinformed? Xbox can't be blamed for having a well-structured cloud business compared to its competitors, can they? He's got a good point.
Oh my God.
No.
Thank you for asking this question.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, Brett. Brett, you go first.
Go, Brett.
Okay, the CMA is almost laughably, fundamentally misunderstanding the problem. They're oversimplifying it to the point of stupidity. One of the things they're looking at is cloud gaming engagement, and they lump into those the statistics of people who are signed up to the cloud gaming tiers of various online services. So all of Microsoft's Game Pass gets thrown in there, even though very few people on Game Pass actually stream games through their cloud service. And Sony's cloud service streaming game service is thrown in there. And they're looking at the difference in subscriptions between the two services, and they're saying, well, clearly Microsoft is dominating this field. Well, no, because again, very few people stream games. Out of every person that has Game Pass and the ability to stream games, I know 0 people that actually stream games. So they're kind of throwing in not just a major oversimplification of the problem and just being like, well, this number is higher than this number, without accounting for any of the extraneous factors. But the thing that they're looking at, the subscription numbers aren't even reflective of the actual services being utilized.
And in the documents, they said that it was on par with the performance of consoles for cloud service gaming.
Yeah.
And that is not the case at all. It is not on par. Not at all. You can't do 4K. That was the whole thing with Google's service. They kept promoting how they could do 4K, and then people were running the numbers. I'm like, no, it's not even hitting that. And they were trying to backtrack. Well, it's based off of the internet and your connection and blah, blah, blah. No, you can't pull it off. It's not on par. It's not there yet.
No, and they even tried to and this is one thing that I kind of really, I'm like, that just feels dishonest, is they did tie Call of Duty back into it, saying that if they introduce Call of Duty exclusivity to their cloud gaming service, it would basically monopolize that against Sony's cloud gaming service. And so they are still definitely using Call of Duty as their kind of leverage, but they're saying like, well, if they're the only people that can stream Call of Duty, then everybody's just going to stream Call of Duty over there. Meanwhile, everybody knows like nobody's really streaming competitive multiplayer online games. They're not doing it.
And then they also, in that same segment there, they completely blacked out and forgot that Microsoft signed with GeForce Now, which is a cloud-based streaming service. And then that other one that's in Eastern Europe, another cloud-based streaming services. There are other ones out there who look to gain from this deal because they will get those same games that the CMA said that would only be for Microsoft's benefit. It makes no sense. And they were like, oh, well, what about Sony? Again, what about Sony? What about everybody else? Stop concerning about the rich kid and compare and just worry about all the other ones that are trying to get into the game. And let everyone play. It's all about just making money, putting the game on all the platforms. The mindset has changed. Yes, back in the day, it was like, oh, this is what I have. It's me, pay exclusives, me. That's not how this is going to work now. That's not where the money is because there's just too many platforms out there. The goal is get it on everything and bring in all that money. That is the goal. Microsoft is taking the approach just like they did with Windows. Put Windows on everything. Tablets, phones, beepers, anything that has a digital motherboard. See if you can squeeze Windows on it so we can make money. And so that's what they're going to do with the software. All these games, these devs they're buying, put it on everything. Make the money. So once the CMA can just break out, I don't know, they must be all these really old guys that just have no idea, or women that have no idea how this stuff is working, and just think, well, this is the old way of thinking. They're just going to buy it up and hoard it. That's not going to work. It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, by the way, the guys in the chat are saying that the CMA actually does know what they're talking about.
I wish they did. Then we wouldn't have this issue.
As soon as I heard them say they were concerned when Stadia went away, that Microsoft was going to be too dominant cloud gaming, that let me know they have no idea what the fuck. Here's the thing: these guys may be smart at what they do with other things, but as we've seen many times, when it comes to video games, a lot of these governing bodies, whether they be for the government or independent, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Like seriously, Stadia, you're going to compare that to whatever Xbox is doing? Come on, these guys are fucking clowns, man. Like they've proven it, you know.
I will say to the chat. Because they obviously, I think most of them don't like this deal.
Oh yeah, that goes to that question. You know,
even if you disagree with the deal, you don't have to go to the length say that the CMA is competent in their.
They're not.
In the way that they're describing what this is in order to, like, it's better to come. You know, like J-Shep said, this argument is one sided. It's like, hey man, you can bring up your arguments and we can go over those. I feel like
you're saying the CMA is smart. Yeah. I'm sorry, Carlos. Finish your thought because I got something to say.
Yeah, but like just saying, the CMA is competent. Like we have to trust that they know more about games than we do. Yeah, and I strongly doubt that.
I highly doubt that. You know, J-Shep does say, who on the panel has actually read any of the CMA documents?
I have. Because Dustin from IGN posted the link on his YouTube. He was reading some of it and he said, here's the link. It's like 400 pages.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it.
Okay, so Adam and Brett, you both have read it then.
I haven't read all 400 pages.
No.
I doubt anybody read all 400. I doubt the CMA read all 400 pages.
No, I read it. Here's the problem is they're treating this like a telecommunications deal. They're treating it like cloud gaming is this new and burgeoning technology that is set to take over the industry, because why not? Why wouldn't it be? Why would you store things locally when you can just stream them digitally? It's clearly for people who have A, had never streamed a game, and B, like if you've played a game, you know why you would keep it locally, because there's no way that your performance is going to be beaten than with like a solid,
on Game Pass, the highest you're getting is 1080p. And if your internet connection isn't that great, it'll drop to 720p. That performance is not on par with what you would have locally on your box.
No, but the way that this makes sense to me is my dad worked in telecommunications for like 30 years. And this sounds exactly the kind of thing that would be coming out of that field. It seems like it's from somebody who is not familiar with gaming. And again, that like the example that I gave is if you're trying to be like, well, okay, so who's dominating the streaming cloud market right now? Well, these people have 20 million subscribers. These people have 40 million subscribers. Numbers I'm pulling completely out of my ass, by the way. And you might say like, okay, well, the people that have 40 million subscribers are clearly dominating. Except then when you would go to say, well, those numbers are a reflection of a bundled service, and the cloud streaming service is less than 10% of that bundled service. In fact, over 90% of the subscribers to the service don't use it. What they do use is the Game Pass function, which is a whole separate thing. It is not a cloud streaming service. So if you look at the actual numbers and you do the entire equation of math about that includes engagement, you're going to come out with a very different set of numbers. And nobody on the CMA thought to follow up or ask that question, which shows me they fundamentally don't understand where this is coming from. And this is one of those things where data never lies, but liars use data.
Yeah.
Right?
Or like think about when Netflix started doing streaming, but they also had where you can get the DVDs by mail, and it was a deal. Remember, there was like one plan that had both. You had streaming and you had that. And if someone would say, well, DVD's not dead, look at the numbers that keep jumping up for Netflix. They're like in the millions now. Like every year they're jumping up. Everybody's doing DVDs. No, look deeper. Everyone's subbing up because they like the fact that it has streaming on it. They're not ordering more DVDs.
Hold on, real quick.
And you can see easily by just looking at engagement. You'd be like, well, okay, out of all these Netflix subscriptions, how many of theirs are having the tier that actually mails you DVDs and are using that? Well, that's not important. That's not what we're talking about.
That's being retired, by the way. Finally, Carlos, go ahead. You were going to say something?
Yeah, I guess it just really depends on which argument anybody wants to take. In the chat, is the argument of Microsoft taking over the cloud gaming space and making it a monopoly, or is it you thinking that Microsoft's going to fuck up all the IPs that you love from Activision? Because those are two totally different discussions. We can talk about the 400-page document all anybody wants, but at the end of the day, it's whether we think as gamers and as consumers if we think that this deal is good or not. Most of us don't really care. Honestly, for me, if I was to lean to a side, I would lean to the side that I rather than Microsoft not get it.
Yeah, same here.
Than to get it, just because I don't have faith that Microsoft can run this company like they've done the other first-party developers that they've had. Rare is the biggest example. 343. But at the end of the day, I don't care because I'm not a big Activision fan. I stopped caring about Call of Duty a long time ago, and I stopped playing World of Warcraft. And Blizzard already fucked up Heroes of the Storm, so fuck them.
So the only reason why I care is when I found out the offers that they made to the people that they thought would have the money for it. It was Amazon, it was Facebook, it was Microsoft, it was Apple, and who knows overseas, but the ones domestic, those are the ones that they offered, and they all said no. Microsoft's the only one that said yes. So let's say Microsoft didn't say yes. Would everybody be okay if Apple owned them and did this, or Amazon and said, hey, we're going to start tying a bunch of things to that Luma service or whatever the fuck it's called?
No, but I will tell you this, Adam. I would have been okay if Sony acquired them. I mean, my point of view is Blizzard has been a hot dumpster fire for between 5 and 10 years now.
Since they got bought, since they merged up with Activision.
Yeah, they're not looking to get any better. They've been, perpetrators of some of the most predatory practices in the industry. Somebody please fucking give this company the glow up and some proper supervision, because they own the rights to a good chunk of my favorite IPs, man.
Oh yeah. They got fun. I want Guitar Hero to come back. I want some Tony Hawk back. Come on now.
Yeah. By the way, just since Carlos brought it up, that I'm pretty much with him on this. I would prefer Microsoft doesn't get Activision, because I think in general all this consolidation stuff is bad. but I'm also not invested enough. I don't care about Activision. I don't really care about Xbox. So whatever, it doesn't personally affect me, and I'm also not passionate enough to be like, I want this to stop. I don't care. It doesn't affect me. I know that may be fucked up and greedy or whatever, but it is what it is. But yeah, I just want it on the record. I would prefer this not happen, but I'm not passionate enough to give a shit other than that.
Yo, Tony, let me. I know you love the hypotheticals. Let me hit you with one. Would you be jazzed about Sony acquiring BioWare?
No.
Really?
I want BioWare. I want BioWare to be independent of EA. BioWare. I want them to be independent. Period. Yeah,
everybody that made BioWare special is gone already.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly.
In my opinion, BioWare is just a ghost of its former self.
By the way, on the flip side, Brett, I also would not want Sony to buy Activision. I don't want any of these companies, but if Sony was to buy them, I'm like, all right, sure, whatever, because it wouldn't affect me in the end.
Well, I'd rather Sony buy smaller studios, because if you're buying Activision, you're just getting it for their solidified IPs that really at the end of the day we don't really care that much about. But if they were to get these smaller developers that they could help bring up and make them do whatever with like Guerrilla Games, like Insomniac, like Sucker Punch. Those are the types of studios that I care. Like,
see, for example, they're not buying just the IPs. They are getting the studios. They're getting that technology that they created for those applications. It's not like a THQ situation where, remember when they auctioned off their IPs and studios were buying, and then you have to hope that they know what to do with them. And clearly they don't with the whole Saints Row debacle. But at least with this, you're buying talent. There's a lot of talented studios that are working on all of these games, whether it's WoW or Diablo or whatever. There's tons of them out there. So it's those resources. I'm sure that's a big selling point right there. It's like, wow, we're getting a lot of talent, not just the IPs, but the people that know how to make all that work. So we just need to let them do what they can do to just keep producing the same product, because obviously it's working.
Yeah. Real quick, I want to, because Jay Shep's telling me some stuff here, addressing me directly. Shout out to Jay Shep. You already know. The CMA has to weigh if it's better to let Microsoft have Activision Blizzard, or if it's better to leave Activision Blizzard as is. They chose as is. Yeah, makes sense.
But the thing is that Activision doesn't want as is. That's the issue.
Sony obviously wants what's his. He also goes, but Tony, you didn't read the CMA documents. You just read the headlines. No, I read beyond the headlines. I've read the articles, and which has direct quotes. I'm obviously not going to read 400 pages. Again, I'm not that interested. So I'm reading more than headline. I'm reading the quotes from the actual CMA, and everything I've read, they sound like any other governing body when it comes to gaming, which is that they're fucking ignorant. Listen, without naming names, there are news people that I respect their opinions, right? They talk about all these subjects, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're on point. The instant they bring up gaming, I'm like, oh wow, you're fucking stupid. Most people don't understand this stuff. Like, gamers understand this stuff. People in the industry, gaming industry, understand this stuff. But regulatory bodies like these, I guarantee you, not even guarantee, just based off of what I read off of their own documents, I'm like, oh yeah, these guys are fucking absolutely ignorant. They don't know what they're talking about, bro. Trust me on that. Like, yeah, just because they govern all these other things doesn't mean they know about gaming. That's my thing. I'm not saying they're ignorant about everything. They are ignorant about gaming. They don't understand.
They're just all about business. They're not looking at the gaming itself.
Yeah.
And that's what's causing this issue.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, also in there, in making the decision based on Microsoft's cloud business and the fact that Google Stadia is no longer competitive, that's not up to the CMA to decide based on this case. You can't say, hey, you can't acquire this company because Google failed to be competitive in the cloud space, therefore creating more competition. That's not up to you. If Google came to you and filed this thing against Microsoft saying, hey, there was some sort of shenanigans with our cloud competition versus them, that's a different story. But that's not what this is about. This is about them acquiring Activision and becoming bigger. So this is like sort of an antitrust issue, right? Antitrust is Microsoft going to make the gaming space less competitive by owning this company? So it's strictly about Activision Blizzard. Does that affect competition with video games, not cloud, right? Mentioning cloud, that's a red flag, like Tony said.
Yeah.
That's not the argument. The argument is Microsoft going to make the gaming industry less competitive because they own this company? Yes or no? And it's like, well, the CMA is like, well, yes, because Google's no longer competitive in cloud. That's not a valid argument.
Yeah, again, they literally said, "Oh, because Stadia went down, Microsoft's gonna have an even bigger." Like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's one-sided.
That alone, I mean, besides the other things, that alone let me know these guys have no idea what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah, disregarding all the other services that are out there, like I mentioned, GeForce Now and stuff that's still flourishing.
PlayStation Network. It's like
it's just
Amazon Luna.
Amazon
there's
Luna.
Other cloud options.
Yeah.
So it's not that the cloud space is not what's in question. The question is like, is Microsoft getting too big? That's an antitrust issue. That's what all these organizations need to look at. A valid argument would be like, yes, because in their contracts for Call of Duty and whatever, we found A, B, C, and D. And if they listed those arguments and it's like, wow, that seems kind of shady, maybe this is not a good idea. But that's not what they're arguing, right?
Yeah.
You have to go on the merits of the deal. This deal specifically between Microsoft and Activision Blizzard, not because Google lost the cloud wars.
Yeah.
And I want to honestly wait.
Go ahead.
One more thing.
Yeah, no, because
I want to know how many people in the chat read all 400 pages of this.
Jay Shut probably did.
It's so funny to think about. Like, think about this. Let's say Tony, you're like, you know what? I'm going to sell Throwdown. I'm gonna sell it, and I want X amount of dollars, and all these you offer to all these big companies, and then one says, "Yeah, I'll buy it." Okay, great. I'm gonna sell it to you, and then all these other governing bodies in the location all over the world, some say yes and some say no. It's like, who are you to tell me they want to sell? You're like, I want to sell to these guys. What is the problem? I offered it to other people. It wasn't a shady backdoor deal. I offered it to everybody. They're the only ones that raise their hand with the amount that I want. What is the problem? And it's crazy.
Yeah. So again, go ahead, because I got more J Shep comments I want to comment on.
That's what I.
Okay, you go ahead then.
So J Shep brought up a bunch of points that the CMA mentioned in their 400-page document. I don't know. So either someone in the chat or someone in here is going to have to expand on them, because they're questions from J Shep that they mentioned, but I don't know that much of the context. So the first one is, were they wrong about Call of Duty not being able to play on the Switch? They talk about the CMA.
We don't know that it isn't on Switch. We don't know
it's not on Switch.
It's not on Switch. So you can't. You don't know that. I'm highly dubious about it being able to run on Switch, but we don't know that yet.
I mean, what I was thinking, and this is what I brought up once they said this, is, this is going to be the legacy ones. We're going to get some older ones. Yeah, the older ones can play because we can see older Xbox 360 and PS3 games running on the Switch with no problem. So we could easily see that. We could see Modern Warfare 2, the old one, and stuff running. Maybe they'll do some of the cloud-based type gameplay like they've been doing.
That's what we talked about. We mentioned that during the show. It's like we ourselves, it's like we were saying, there's no way that a new mainline Call of Duty game is going to play on the Switch. So they're going to give them some booty Call of Duty, or they're going to stream it. They're going to give it a booty duty.
It's going to be like a little, sign up here and boop, boop, boop. And what's this? Am I downloading? Well, it's like a weird looking, it's pretty much Game Pass. That's what you're doing. You're downloading a Game Pass because then you're going to connect to the server. It's not going to have all the games. It's just going to have Call of Duty that you purchased. And you're going to connect to that server and you're going to play it in 1080p.
J-Shep, we literally said that you can't play a new mainline Call of Duty game on the Switch. We literally said that. I don't know why you're saying that. You guys said that it's not possible.
We didn't say that. We said that there is no Call of Duty game on Switch for us to say yes or no. But we are highly dubious about a mainline one running on Switch.
They can pull it off. That's amazing.
We can't. Need hardware. We're saying we can't say the CMA is right about that because that example doesn't exist. That's what we're trying to say. Understand?
Anyway, and we're giving caveats saying, the only way that we can imagine this being playable on the Switch is if they stream it, or they give them a shitty call.
Just give the old ones. They still work, and they can slap a new name on it, like they do. It's like collector's classic edition. They can do something, and people will still pay for it. They'll buy it.
They'll just give you Call of Duty Rise.
Oh, nice!
Oh no.
There's another.
Yeah, go ahead.
Another
Carlos,
question,
you take him.
So, were the CMA wrong about the contracts that link competitors back to Microsoft?
What does that mean?
Yeah,
there was a lot of contracts that were linking to everyone.
Yeah, everybody has contracts. You got to be more specific than that. Sony has contracts too, So does Nintendo. So everybody has contracts.
Yeah,
I mean that was the whole reason why they started. I mean, a lot of these contracts are open, at least the new contracts. That's how we know about the 10-year guarantee for this, 10 years of this. Those are all contracts that they're trying to sign. CMA maybe think that's shady. I never understood that either. I'm like, well, they're trying to prove the point that it's not about hoarding onto Microsoft's platform of an Xbox. It's just to get the software so they can then put it on other services and just make more money. That's it.
Yeah. I got a question because it's J Shep asking these, right?
Carlos, did you want before that? Do you want to go to the other one real quick, Carlos?
Go
ahead, then Brett could go. Go ahead, Carlos.
Was the CMA wrong about Microsoft trying to corner cloud before it had a chance to grow?
Again, in what way?
Yeah, everybody's been around
cloud. Yeah,
it's been around for over 10 years.
Yeah, so like even before Microsoft dipped its hat in there or its foot in there, it was already around. Remember OnLive and shit.
Yeah, OnLive was on
PlayStation was doing cloud before Xbox.
When it was a Gaikai, whatever it was called. Remember?
By the way, let me answer the question just real easy.
Yeah,
they're trying to corner the fucking market. That's what everyone tries to do.
Everybody tries to do that.
Yeah. You don't think if Google was dominating right now, they wouldn't try to squeeze everybody else out of it?
Well, yeah. Okay, hold on. Isn't this like part and parcel, like to helping emergent technology develop? Like it's kind of like like you're saying, like you could say the same thing. Like Microsoft's trying to corner the AI market right now. Like no, Microsoft is trying to develop some of the more advanced AI so it can get a strong foothold and sure, ideally corner the market, but that's kind of what happens when you're trying to, integrate new technology to your advantage. That's just kind of how it works. And Microsoft has been pretty good at helping to develop and set standards in some of the cloud gaming stuff. It really hasn't paid off. It's just been throwing money into a hole for a while.
But here's the thing. There's two different. This is much more nuanced than the question even asked. It's like cornering the cloud market. The cloud market is more than just video games. Mm-hmm. It's just a whole bunch of servers that Microsoft, that AWS, that's Amazon, and that Google with their Google Cloud servers they fucking have a foothold on the cloud service market. And that's one discussion. But if we want to talk about the gaming and the publishing and all that other stuff, then it's much harder to say that they're cornering the market because they're not in the lead. They're not even close. Sony destroys Microsoft when it comes to publishing.
If they want to go on the back end, then maybe you can go say, because of Azure. And Sony is using Azure and a few others are using Azure. So, and that's hosting, but that mainly came from the enterprise side. That's how we have Office 365 and all that other stuff. That's just performing applications, running applications in the cloud.
But nobody can, like Carlos said, nobody can argue that this is because of gaming. All this cloud stuff was developed around enterprise applications. And then they went, hey, you know what? We have all this robust systems. Let's, we can stream games. There you go,
Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's really more about just gaming, publishing games, and cornering that market because the cloud, Microsoft has the cloud. They have the cloud. They're dominant in that market. Azure is one of the premier suitable services for when it comes to cloud services.
Sony uses Azure, don't they?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's they should go all the way back and start bitching about that and then tell Sony they can't use it anymore. Why? Well, look, you're giving too much power to Microsoft. You got them for this shit.
They help to develop the infrastructure. I mean, like, that's kind of what happens when you do that.
Yeah, but this whole thing is like, they're trying to corner the market. Like, everybody's trying to corner the market.
Yeah. I mean, they started to corner the market when they bought, like, fledgling companies who were developing the technology and went, we see potential use for this, and then cultivated it down the road for fun and profit. I mean, that's how it works.
Yeah, and I feel like it should matter to the individual because it's an individual by individual's case basis on this stuff. It's like if you care about the Activision Blizzard games, then you should care about that But if they acquire Activision, Blizzard, Microsoft does, and Sony is still releasing their games and going to destroy everything that Microsoft does, then I don't think you have anything to worry about. Or the same thing for Nintendo. Nintendo's still going to do their thing. It's whether you think getting Activision Blizzard is good for Microsoft or good for the first or the titles that you care about, and whether they're gonna do a good job with them.
Yeah. The worst case, well, real quick, like you guys said, some of you guys are not interested in any of these titles that come from Activision, and I am. There's a bunch, and I see this, and I keep bringing it up because it just brings up memories of what happened with THQ. When THQ went up for sale, nobody wanted to buy it. They're like, nah, forget it. So then what happened? They just auctioned off, and we had Joe Schmoes from all over gobbling up certain IPs, and then you just hope for the best that your game comes back, or if it doesn't, some of them have not returned back. Someone owns it and does nothing.
Adam? So that's a funny way to say ruin all of them.
Yeah, right? Ruin it. That's it. So and also, if let's say one of these other studios, whatever Apple, whatever, was to buy it at the time, if it wasn't Microsoft, it's like, all right, fine, now what? And then what if they said, all right, well, we're going to stick it behind our services, or we're going to create some new service, we're going to create a new platform. Something's like, great, so now I have to get invested in something else. And they would have gone away with it because they don't really have a foothold. We wouldn't have seen an argument like this because it isn't Microsoft. And then what? Then we would all have to go and buy a new Apple device or something so that we can play all these great games that Activision still have. Because what I'm thinking is, if let's say worst comes to worst, Microsoft doesn't do it, all kinds of things happen, it falls apart, then Activision still at this point with the shareholders, because remember, they were up for sale. They were asking. It wasn't like, we're taking offers. They were putting it up. They're like, hey, we're out. Then what? Then they sell it. And then we are seeing which developers start gobbling up certain IPs and studios. And that could be
Ubisoft.
Yeah.
Look and then what? Ubisoft can't maintain their current business model. They've been shopping themselves around, and nobody will pick them up because their spending to profit is fucking terrible. Because they have not, they're just hemorrhaging money. For those of you that don't know, Ubisoft is in big fucking trouble.
Too many live service games that fell apart. That Riders Republic, that's not doing anything for them. That other one that they did, it was like a free to play roller game. Remember the roller derby one? That's not.
The Division is a disaster.
The Division, right now it is. It's a disaster. They got all these issues with it. Even when they did the year 5, it's like, well, were you making another one? No, we don't want to talk about it. We're not. We got free to play coming. Nobody wants that. They did it had low numbers when it came for the interest after they had the Heartland, and they keep spewing that out. Hey, you guys watching this? You guys care? It's like, well, we heard about it, and now we know what it is, and we don't want it. So it's a very niche audience that actually likes survival. There's a reason they didn't add survival, that mode, in Division 2. And now to say we're going to make a whole game based around that, all right, that's fine for those people, but that's not what a lot of people wanted. People wanted the run and gun action RPG type format. And now we got to worry about eating and sleeping and all that. No thanks.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. We still got, go ahead, because we still got more questions about this, but go ahead.
I know. Yeah. I want to ask a question. I'm going to pop off the mouth for just a second.
Sure, go ahead.
My return question is, do you actually believe that this deal should be blocked on the basis of the advantages of Microsoft's cloud gaming? And the reason I ask this question is because everybody who surrounds this discussion honestly seems disingenuous. It's gotten to the point where it's really got under my fucking skin. Well, like, here's the deal. If you are having the question, ultimately what I think every gamer is talking about when they're arguing this back and forth is it okay for a large company to gain ground in a competitive space by absorbing independent entities? And is that good for the user/consumer at the end of the day? But that's not a discussion any of us are fucking having. We're having a discussion about whether or not cloud gaming is being monopolized based off of statistics that are completely fucking irrelevant. We're being disingenuous to the extreme here, and I don't understand. I understand if you don't want to see Microsoft get this, if you feel it's going to be bad for you, but like, why can't we have that discussion?
Brett, can I take this in a slightly different direction?
Yeah.
Let's say Microsoft gets Activision Blizzard, and they improve their cloud gaming service.
Mm-hmm.
If Nintendo and we mentioned this a lot of times in the past, if Nintendo and Sony decided to put their whole catalog and all their titles day one on a cloud gaming service, it would fucking destroy Game Pass. Both of them. It would destroy them. Microsoft would be living on the coattails of Call of Duty, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just how it is. The cloud gaming battles are also dependent on what Sony does and what they can do. And what they can do is they can fucking lay the smackdown on Microsoft, but they decide not because they're doing their toe dip.
Yeah. If they put all their first parties in a plan, that's it. It's a wrap.
If Spider-Man 2